Welcome to the third episode of Can I Get Next, a podcast highlighting the different local scenes across the country within the fighting game community. Today's challenger represents Maryland as a Street Fighter V competitor for the Hero Group, a Chun-Li main and lover, and a huge supporter for the LBGTQ community. Welcome to the show, Ludovic. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes. That's about it. My name's Ludovic, and I'm a fighting game player. That's about it.
I know you also play Tekken, don't you?
Oh yes. Tekken's my second game.
Who do you play in Tekken?
In Tekken 7, I used Asuka Kazama. Yes.
Okay, very cool, very cool. Do you have like any Chun-Li mods to add for Asuka?
I do not, because I play on PS4, so there's no,
Oh,
yeah, I
okay.
don't have any mods.
Yeah. I know I've seen people who like try to make various like character costumes in that game that like look like other video game characters. I saw one the other day. I forgot who it was they were playing, but they had like they made their character look just like Cammy. It was so strange.
And a PC version can allow you to do it. They have mods like that.
Yeah. Um Now I know recently too with Leroy, he got a bunch of good nerfs. How do you feel about it?
Actually, never. Well, I'm not following Tekken right now, like especially in season 3.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't know too much about the character Leroy, but yeah, he at Evo Japan it was like seven Leroy out of 8.
Yeah, I
So
remember.
he got yeah, that was pretty bad. So he got nerfed, but I'm sure he's still strong. But like I said, I'm not following the game right now,
Yeah.
so I don't really know how strong he is.
Then on the other end of the spectrum, how do you feel about the most recent season for Street Fighter, the Chun-Li buffs?
Chun-Li buffs are good. I won't say she needed it, but it's good buffs. It doesn't make her like broken or anything. It just make her really solid and really strong.
Yeah. I think
And yeah,
oh, I was gonna say because I think they I know they buffed her health. They buffed her stun meter, didn't they?
yeah, she's one of the characters that received health buff and stun meter buff.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, she got most buff. Like she was mostly buffed in season 3.
Yeah.
Season 5 patch. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think me personally, I've noticed a huge difference just because it seems like there's a lot of matches where things will be very, very close. Um, as far as like, maybe you're both be at low health and so on and so forth. And I always feel like when it's those moments where Chun-Li has to work a lot harder than some other characters, just because like her damage scaling can be really bad, or she just like, because she has such low health as is. So I
mm,
think the buffs that she's gotten has made that a lot easier for her to close out those wins.
yes, yes. Also, her damage got increased though, so
Yeah,
that
it's
that helps her a lot too.
oh yeah, absolutely. Now are you the only Chun-Li player in your scene?
My scene, yeah, I am actually. During my scene in local Maryland, we said DMV. I say like it's not the it's the DC, Maryland, Virginia area.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, we don't have many Chinese. I've always been like the only one here, one of the only ones here. Um, don't know
Now,
why though.
I know you think more people. I feel like there's a lot of people who like pocket her, but there's not a lot of actual Chun-Li mains.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Now is your scene pretty big? Is it fairly small? Because when we think about like scenes in the FGC, Maryland isn't exactly the first state or that comes to mind.
It isn't, but our scene is pretty big. I think it's pretty big because like it's this tri-state thing. Like Maryland, Virginia, and DC.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes Delaware people show up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we're like especially like we have like if you look venues,
Mm-hmm.
the biggest one we have is called Xanadu. I don't know if you heard of Xanadu,
No, I don't think I have.
but Yeah, it's pretty big, but like, cause Maryland, we have more Smash players than anything.
Mm-hmm.
So the local Xanadu, VG Boot Camp.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're like I guess like number one Smash streamers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they're the one we have Xanadu, and it's in Maryland. So at Xanadu, our local is mostly like it's bigger with Smash player because like at venue, a lot of Smash kids show up for that. But for like I guess like Street Fighter and like games like that, 2D games, fighting games. Yeah, it's so big. I think it just we're kind of we have so many different venues, like 3 or 4 venues, so people just go to different locals. Like,
Now, like, is there obviously you mentioned there's a pretty strong Smash scene. Um, is there like a pretty large amount of people that show up for specifically Street Fighter?
at so we have 2 major locals, one in Maryland and one in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
The one in Maryland is called Xanadu. The other one in Virginia is called the Cave Fairfax.
Okay.
So Xanadu is on Thursdays, which is today. Um, Later today. So we have the host like Street Fighter, mainly Street Fighter, Tekken, Soul Calibur, and sometimes so the same show, Blaze Blue Tag, and then like pretty much all the fighting games. So like yeah, Street Fighter, the numbers have been getting lower. Sometimes it gets to like 20 entrants,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, like from like 15 to 20. Sometimes like even lower, like 8. It's just like people don't go out to their locals for Street Fighter as much
That's
like they used to.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say that's still not terrible numbers, like, especially compared to like a lot of other scenes I know in the Phoenix community. Like, that's about our average is around like 8 to 10.
Yeah.
More so for like our casual nights, but that's not terrible. Still, that's still a decent number
Yeah,
for
it's
like
pretty decent for
consistent.
Xanadu, but like for the other one at the cave in Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they don't even host tournament for Street Fighter anymore
Oh, really?
because yeah, I mean people show up, but it's not enough people.
Yeah.
But like there are more Tekken players that show up for that one there, so they
Okay.
host Tekken tournaments there more.
That's interesting. The fact that like one now is that Tekken seemed pretty strong with Xanadu and the other
Yeah, Tekken scene is pretty strong here.
okay.
People show up for Tekken too. We
Okay.
have more Tekken entrants in at Xanadu than Street Fighter right now. It's been like that for a while now.
Okay. Okay. I think that tends to be kind of a common trend across the board as a lot of places, like especially in Phoenix. I know like our Tekken scene tends to be pretty strong. We have a higher number of people that show up for our Tekken tournaments than we do for Street Fighter.
It's,
Um,
yeah, it's like you were saying across the country. It seems like Street Fighter players aren't supporting their locals as much anymore. They rather just play online or whatever the reason is. More Tekken players are going out to play offline.
yeah, I I definitely am a huge proponent for supporting your locals. I know in the last episode we chatted briefly about the fact that there needs to be more of that because there's I think there's a common theme among most people that you not only gain the experience that you otherwise just couldn't get otherwise when playing in person, but you also start to build friendships and meaningful relationships and stuff like that with people when you
Yeah,
go to
that's
your
very
local.
true.
Yeah. Um, did you ever? So like, obviously, I know you're a fam or a friend with quite a number of people because you've been a part of the community for quite a while, right?
Yeah.
What was your first Street Fighter you played?
My first Street Fighter, hmm, I would say you mean like competitively, or
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
we'll go
gotcha.
competitively.
Uh, okay, yeah, Street Fighter 4 will be my first Street Fighter.
Okay, so yeah, you've been around them for quite a while. Um, do you obviously, with the local scene, people kind of come together and naturally friendships, form and bond. Is there people in your life that kind of had a significant impact because of you going to your local scene and stuff like that?
Yeah. I mean, most of my friends are fighting gamers, so because
Mm-hmm.
I met them through my local scenes. Like, I'm sure you met some of them, like Ojion, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So like, it's the close friends, like Ram, Samuel Ram, close
Yeah.
friends, like from locals, well, that go out to travel, but they go out to tournaments with me sometimes. So people like that I'm close friends with, and there are a few others.
Very nice. Um, do you feel like there's a difference? I was thinking about this. Like, there's a difference between the friends you make within the fighting game community and the friends you make outside of it.
Um, yeah, there is, but like I don't have many. I don't have like I don't hang out with other people that are not gamers like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I want to, but it's really hard for me to like. Now it's hard for me to make friends that are not gamers because I'm so surrounded by it.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, but there's a difference when I do happen to hang out with someone who's not a gamer. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it because like it's like the break from not talking about games all the time, I guess.
Yeah. It's funny because obviously I have a couple friends that aren't gamers, and sometimes I'll start to get into it and start talking about like the fighting game community because it's such a huge part of my life too. And I'll forget that they aren't a part of the community sometimes, and I'll
Um,
start using like jargon and stuff like that, and they'll be like, "Wait, what's a this or what's FGC or stuff like that." Like
right.
very out of touch with video games, particularly fighting games. So it's I always forget because there's it's rarely really a big part of my life, and I think when people join the FGC, it becomes a big part of theirs as well. Um, Now I know as well. Obviously, you're a part of the LGBTQ community, and I remember when we first met at Combo Breaker. That was actually a topic we talked about. I don't know if you remember it, but it was something that I thought was really cool and really special because as somebody else who is also part of the community, it's great to see like representation and support for it. Um, do you want to talk at all about your experiences with the community within the FGC?
Uh, yeah, sure, but like, what kind of experiences?
Well, really, just like, how do you feel about being a part of the LGBTQ community?
Uh,
Um,
okay. Well, sure. I was actually talking about. I was talking about this a little bit about my friend Pink Diamond.
mm-hmm,
She's local to me. She would go to the same local as Xanadu.
mm-hmm,
Um, yeah, she we were talking about it. It's like yeah, the FGC is pretty open about like friendly. It's a friendly environment for the LGBTQ community.
mm-hmm.
But we it is friendly, but you don't actually see many. I mean, sure, there's a few top players that are LGBT and out, but you don't actually see like couples like that. Like you don't see couples out together in the in the FGC scene like that.
Yeah.
So that's just a thought we had. I was like, oh, that's that's kind of that's kind of weird because like we're very supporting. The scene is very supporting, but you don't actually see people. You
Yeah.
don't see couples.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now that I'm thinking about it, that's a good point because I, the first off, I feel like there are some there's definitely like prominent players that are part of the community, but that's a good point that there's not a lot of those kind of couples on any levels, even at tournaments and stuff like that, as well as locals. I
Right.
also remember meeting Pink Diamond. Um, and I remember, gosh, I'm like having flashbacks to Combo Breaker now.
Yeah.
But it's something cool that I think is unique to maybe the fighting game community is the fact that the community is very open and welcoming, despite, there's always going to be your bad apple of the bunch.
And there
uh,
are.
I still feel like overall the community tends to be very welcoming and very accepting, people with those kind of differences, and people in general, I think, who, maybe don't fit what, like, the norm. um,
Mm. Right.
and that's what I appreciate about the community too, and something that I love is you can be yourself and still be accepted and still find your group of friends, or still find people that are going to support you, for who you are. So when we met at Combo Breaker and we had that conversation, that was kind of my first real experience, like, talking about that so openly with someone in the community, and
Oh yeah, I
feeling.
think I think the drinks must have helped me just
Yeah.
like talk. So I was
Definitely
like,
that too.
yeah. So I was just like, yeah, because I talked to you. I was like, oh, let me talk to you. She seems so friendly. So I just like, because like when I'm like I see someone else is friendly, so I just thought like I don't hold back too much. I just say whatever, you
Yeah.
know. Like no, I say whatever that I'm thinking about, but I try not to be disrespectful.
Yeah, of course.
So. But yeah, you seem like cool enough, like for the first time of meeting you, so I
Oh,
thought I
thanks.
can talk to you about it.
Yeah.
So,
But no, that was something that, like, really stood out to me, was the fact that we had that conversation so openly, because it was my first real experience, like, just talk, like it's one thing when you talk about it online with a person, but it's
yeah.
another thing when you're, like, sitting down face to face in public and you're just talking openly like
But
that.
yeah, yeah. Oh, actually, that makes sense. Like, yeah, I don't actually get to talk to people about it like that, face to face at
Hmm.
tournaments or well, unless like I'm hanging out with my friends like Ricky Ortiz. Because like if I'm at tournament, I'm usually hanging out with like Ricky,
Hmm.
and like if maybe other LGBTQ people.
Hmm.
So we talk about it, but if it's someone I just met, it's hard to talk about it, which is I don't know. I feel like because I want to talk about it more and like because I know like there's people that want to talk about it and it's just not comfortable
Yeah.
like opening up about such topics.
Yeah.
So,
And it's,
but maybe it's something I
uh,
should try to do more often.
yeah. Well, I think it's awesome because even in, like, outside the fighting game community, it's one thing if it's talked about online and stuff like that, but it's another thing when it's an open topic,
Mm.
in person with, like, your friends and people like that. And I feel like sometimes it's a little taboo, even though it shouldn't be, because there's nothing wrong with it.
It's so very taboo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was something that really stood out to me at Combo Breaker, and something I really appreciated because it made me feel more comfortable with my own sexuality as a person. But
Yeah.
also making having that conversation and sharing that love and support for each other and for a community within a community. Um,
Thank you. Thank you so much for reminding me of that, and cause yeah, cause I want to do that more, like
mhm.
even locally. But I feel like I'm gonna come off like as aggressive to the person. Like if I know someone is like
Mhm.
LGBTQ and I want to go talk to them, but I don't want to come off as aggressive. So like sometimes I'll hold back because of that. And
Yeah.
I'm not always drinking to like I'm not always drink. I may sound like an alcoholic, but I don't drink like that. But so I'm not always drinking to like when you're drinking, you just like you don't hold back too much.
Yeah.
So but like even with my close friends, I don't even really talk about it like that, which is weird. Like I don't talk about these things with my friends like that.
Yeah. I think it's a
But
discussion that should be a little more normalized, honestly.
it's definitely for
Yeah.
sure.
I like I think if it was more normalized, it would be even more, like, not just within the FGC, but I think it would make spaces, more comfortable and more accepting, and maybe bring to surface some issues that people have encountered within the community to light a little bit better, because again we see it all the time and all over the place on the internet, but there's something so different and so much more impactful, at times, seeing, like, having those discussions, those topics come up face to face in person, and so on and so forth. And I mean, that's generally with anything too, whether it's going to a local and playing a set, or, meeting somebody at a tournament and having, sharing a mutual love and appreciation for the support of a community.
Yes. Sure. Yeah, you just opened my eyes again. Thank
Aw.
you so much.
um, Now, with that said, what do you like about your community? What do you like
Um,
about your local scene?
my local scene. Hmm. Oh,
You can name more than one thing.
I think, yeah, I think we changed a lot. My scene changed a lot because, um, I mean, we used to be known as like, yeah, we used to be known as like, I don't even know how to put this. I before, because before like the Street Fighter 4 generation, like before us, we used to be known as like the I mean East Coast like is like slow play. They play like, the lane. They play like lane style.
Mm-hmm.
Like but I don't know. I'm probably going somewhere else. But like what I like the most, what I like about my scene is yeah. Even though like we're not too known, like you know we're not one of the top scene like in the country, and like when it comes to like uh yeah, how do I put this? Like you have the NLBC, you have the
Yeah.
What's the Nice Fight. Like we're not that well known, even though we stream all the time. But we're still, I've seen it's been around. We're still supporting like a lot of players still support the locals. They still go out. They play each other a lot, especially our anime people. Like anime players always stick around to like when you come to our local, you'll notice that anime players are always together. Like they're always friendly to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
So
I'm
when you
really trying
guys,
to think.
oh, no worries, no worries. So, like, when you guys go to, I'm guessing you're not the only one that travels for tournaments.
I'm not the only one. A bunch of people. A lot of our players travel to different tournaments. I know like Winter Ball's coming up, and
Mm-hmm.
I know like, a bunch of our Tekken players are going. I would not be going, but a lot of our Tekken players are going. Um, uh,
But
but
I was gonna say,
that's
when you guys like travel and stuff like that, I'm guessing y'all get together and you'll root for each other, and when
yeah.
you're competing. I always think that's so fun.
Yeah. If a friend is playing, like if I notice someone like one of my local friends are is playing on stream, or if I happen to see the match, I will support them.
Yeah.
It's just I mean you can't support everyone because like there's so many people that go to tournaments. But yeah,
Yeah.
if we happen to see someone and someone's about to play an important match, that you want to be there for them,
Mm-hmm.
support them. So I
Yeah.
try to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sorry. That was a hard question because I couldn't
No,
really
no,
think.
it's okay.
I couldn't really think of too much of like. I mean, I really like my venues. I didn't do. It's like really the venue's really nice. It's like really
Mm-hmm.
esports like.
Yeah.
So many. Yes, we have a lot of different monitors, and there's a stream station. So I like that
That's really
about
cool.
Xanadu. Um,
Yeah, because you have
Also like
a couple different locations considered for your local per se. So.
so like one is very like esports like Xanadu, and the other one is like it's like a LAN cafe. They have like different computers there. You can go there any day and play like League of Legends, computer games. But on Tuesday they have fighting games, and the area is really nice. It's a college area, so that's a great place to eat there. So
That's really cool.
about the cave.
That's really cool. Like,
So,
that was one thing that always struck me as really interesting when I went to, like, my first local outside of like Arizona. I went to what was it? It was in Atlanta for a final round last year, and it was really interesting to me because I saw where their local scene is held, and I was like, this is way bigger than Arizona. And it's like it looked like a proper like esports area where Arizona, like we have two locals and one of them's like in a police station, and
Wow.
then yeah, and then the other one is like in this like game shop, super small. And so it
Yeah,
was always interesting like going to this place. It looks like a proper like esports venue and very fancy and
yeah,
stuff like that, so it was really
yeah,
kind of neat.
yeah. Xanadu is pretty fancy, I think, with all those monitors, all the monitors that. So yeah, they've been trying to like host the big tournaments, like regionals.
Oh yeah.
They host them. Yeah,
Nice.
Xanadu. They have in the past.
Well, that's really cool. Yeah, we I was so proud Arizona got put on the Capcom Pro Tour this year for undefeated, so I'm super stoked for that. I have no idea where it's going to be held. Um,
Oh,
so that's going to be interesting for if you are looking to gain some CPT points and you want to come visit your friend Flex over in Arizona.
true that. True that. I don't think about that.
Now,
That's nice.
as a Chun-Li player, me personally, I've looked up to people like you and Phantomeria and
Mm.
Terrence. Um, but I want to know, who is it that you look up to as a Chun-Li player? Who is it that you try to take the tech from or try to learn, or who you admire?
Um, well, I think I'm already past that point.
Oh.
But yeah, so like now, I mean, I respect all the players now, all the Chun-Li players.
Yeah.
But now, like, it doesn't really matter who's the Chun-Li player is. So like, if I see a Chun-Li player playing, so I just try to, no matter what level they are at, like as long as like, they know what they're doing, I would try to see, like, try to see what they're doing. If I see something interesting, I try to like take it from them and try to put it in my own game.
Yeah.
Yeah, like sure, like MOV, like like they're like the higher level, like the highest house level Chun-Li players.
Mhm.
So like yeah, you're more than likely to see something new from them than an average Chun-Li player.
Yeah.
So, but I respect most of the Chun-Li. So, but then also like I'm one of the Chun-Li player who comes up with the text real quick. But like I always post my tech stuff, so I share the Chun Li stuff. I would say something like I'm a Chun Li father because I was like putting out the new stuff,
That's
and then
awesome.
everyone else
I think that's important
try to
too.
yeah.
For
I'm
people.
one of the Chun Li dad. Yeah,
Yeah. I think that's awesome though, because I think there needs to sometimes be more people that, who have a high skill with their character, that are trying like new ways of approaching scenarios and new tech, and aren't just keeping that for themselves but willingly sharing that with others. Um,
yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
so important.
Yeah, if I find something new, I would just share it right away. I don't try to hide it because there's no point of hiding it anymore. Because someone else gonna find it the next day or something. So if
Mm-hmm.
you find something, just like share it. Especially if you want people to progress or get better,
Yeah, yeah.
just share it. Mm.
Now, did you play Chun Li in Street Fighter 4?
Yes, I always since Street Fighter. I always play Chun Li in Street Fighter. Yeah, I was pretty good.
Okay.
I, I mean, I probably was. I was still probably the best Chun Li in America. So
Oh, very
yeah,
cool.
so I was Chun Li.
That's cool. Now, I've asked this a while ago, but I want to bring it up again as a fun topic to discuss. Why do you pick to play Chun Li?
Like this question always comes up. Why do I pick Chun Li? It's not really complicated. It's just more like I just gravitate more towards like female characters. Or yeah, I like female characters a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So and then in Street Fighter 2, she's the only one. She's
Yeah.
the only one, and she looks cool, and I like what she stands for because I usually don't like evil characters.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also a big thing. If your character is evil, I most more than likely won't play that character.
Yeah.
So and then I like her aesthetics. It's like she looks cool and then tongue ties, and she does kung fu. I'm a fan of kung fu. It's just a lot of things like together that I like about her.
Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
cool. I always think it's funny because it's like some people expect this like long drawn out answer as to why, like, oh, because this character, represents X, Y, and Z, and my mother and my mother's mother or whatever, ridiculous
No.
answer. And it's just like sometimes it's just because a character looks cool, they align with a
Yeah.
value you have, and maybe they're
Yeah.
just fun to play.
Yeah, she's cool, and I've been playing her for a while. I won a lot of tournaments with her,
Mm-hmm.
so so she's growing on me. She's my character. I just
Yeah.
like her a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I think one thing I've noticed across the board with most of the Chun Li players, because every time I see another Chun Li player, I instantly like want to support them and gravitate towards them because I'm just like, there's not enough of us. And maybe there is, but I'm biased, and I think everybody should play Chun Li.
I, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of Chun-Li players, low key.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, or at least like people who like pocket her. Um, But I always notice like people who are Chun Li diehards or like Chun Li mains are always like a little sassy, and I think it's so funny.
uh,
And like
True.
the first person that comes to mind is always Phantom Miria. That or Ricky.
It's very, very sassy.
So that or we have good style. I know Terrence is always killing it with those polos.
His famous Terrence Stripes.
Yes, yes, the famous stripes.
That's cool. Hey, that's cool. That's his thing.
Yeah, I dig it. Now with your local scene, obviously everybody has things that they love about their scene, and things that they think are cool. But at the end of the day, we all wish that our scenes could be better. And for you, what would you like to see, or what do you wish could be better about your scene? Or, another way to answer this is, what would you change about your local scene if you could?
Well, most mainly Xanadu. I mean, it's like esports. Like it's an esports venue, so the cost is a little high because like it's like $10 for the weekly. So that and then like so most venue like for a weekly they like to have it $5.
Yeah.
So I think $10 is a little too much for like a lot of people. So because of that, I think a lot of people don't like to call. They don't like to show up because they don't want to pay $10 each week. So it
Yeah.
was like if Xanadu could like lower their price to like $5, then that would mean that more players are probably will show up, especially with all the setups they have there. So like I think that's the biggest thing about Xanadu. It's too costly, especially for like the monthly, because they host monthlies too. So the monthlies are like $15.
Mm-hmm.
It's $15 for the venue and then 10 for the games. 10 for the games. So maybe a cheaper price for the venue fee will help out. But also I guess uh, I was seeing our games are very separate. Like the players are very separate. They don't all come together. Like you have the anime players, you have the Tekken players, you have the Street Fighter players, and then the Soul Calibur players. Like it's very separate sometimes. I would like it for all the scenes to come together and I don't know, just like know each other more because
Yeah.
like people have been going to the same venue for a long time, and they're barely some of the players don't know each other because they play different games. So I find that really sad.
Yeah.
so I try to talk to everyone from like different like from people that play different games. I try to talk to them. People that like if I don't play under night. So once in a while, I will go to the under night like setups and try to talk to those guys, or like the Guilty Gear setups. And I try to talk to them.
Yeah.
So I would like to see that more. You know.
What do you think it would take to kind of, make things a little less like segregated per se, or a little less clicky, even?
Uh, I don't know. That's hard because like even with the recent like Twitter rants,
Yeah.
yeah, like people were saying with the Street Fighter 5 thing, don't play that game. The netcode is bad. Play my game. That kind of thing. Don't play Street Fighter 5. It's terrible. Play my game.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of players have that in them. It's like, oh, why are you playing that game? Come play my game. My game is better.
Yeah.
And so I feel like because of that, people don't talk to each other or try not to like they try not to say anything to each other. Also, like it doesn't. Granted, most gamers are introverted, so that they don't know how to. Most players are uncomfortable talking to other people.
Right, right.
So there's also that. But I think game you play, if you all go to the same venue, you should all at least try to talk to each other, just in case, like if you happen to be at a bigger tournament out of your venue or out of your local scene,
Yeah.
or you go to a major and then you see the same player from your local scene, and you don't like you could that could be your hangout buddy for the tournament if you don't have anyone else there, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, that's
Because
actually
yeah,
yeah,
so
that's a really good point. I didn't think about that, but it's like if you're mingling per se, and you're interacting and making friends with like people from other games and stuff like that. I didn't think about that, like how that can carry on to going to majors. And let's say it's only you that for like supporting your game. Like let's say you're the only like Guilty Gear player that's competing from your state, but then you have like 3 or 4 Street Fighter or Tekken players that are going as well. It's like, well, even though you're the only Street Fighter player traveling, or sorry, Guilty Gear player traveling, you want to be able to have people that are going to root for you in your corner, but
yeah,
also people that you'll want to hang out with. So, because I think
yeah.
it's one thing, especially if you're newer to the community, I think it can be a little intimidating to go to a major when you don't know a ton of people.
Yes, that's very true. Mm. Yeah, that's what I would like to see. People talking to each other more. Like regardless, like it doesn't matter which game
Mm-hmm.
that they're playing. Just just establish that friendship, that local friendship.
Yeah, yeah. No, I like that. Um, it's funny because for my local scene, we don't have a ton of female Street Fighter players. I tend to be the only female that shows up to our locals. But in the Tekken realm, we do have female Street or Tekken players. So I've become very I picked up Tekken
Mm.
because I enjoy it, but also because now it gives me an opportunity to talk with them about something on their turf per se. Um,
True.
but it's cool
You're
too
right.
because what were you gonna say?
I will talk after. I would
Oh,
say.
okay. But I guess the cool thing is like because there are more female Tekken players in our scene, I'm able to kind of like hang out with them and both out like within our local scene at majors and tournaments, but also like outside of that as well. But it took
Yeah.
like that interaction, that like wanting to learn how to play another game or even like get to know another community for me to even have that opportunity.
And now that you mentioned it about the female players, we actually don't have that many female players in our scene, which is weird. Like I always wonder about that.
Mhm.
Like, my local scene does not have that many female players. I know, like Tekken, even in Tekken, it's rare. We have Pink Diamond, but that's like,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, yeah, we don't have any Street Fighter,
Wow.
female players in our scene.
Yeah,
Maybe like maybe a Soul Calibur one, but that's Yeah, I don't even know how to change that. Like, that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah,
Like,
it's definitely hard.
how do you bring more female players into your team? Because they're there and interested in
Mm-hmm.
playing. And just like I know, like it can be really hard for like female to like go to a venue with that feeling,
Yeah.
being harassed or not, being like preyed on,
Yeah.
things like that. So, but I would just really would like to see more. Like, I feel bad for someone to like, oh, I want to play this game, but I can't because such and such.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely. I I think that's kind of across the board. I think everybody would like to see more diversity in their local scenes just because we don't want people to ever feel like they can't come and play a game or they can't come and, like hang out with us and enjoy what the community as a whole as well as the games have to offer. And, at the end of the day too, it just means that our scene's going to get bigger. And we're like people in general are always happy and supportive to see their game grow. Um, but yeah, that's something that I've kind of noticed, especially in the Street Fighter realm, is there's not a lot of female competitors, but as
oh,
well as female members within the community, particularly
yeah,
those who like go out to their local scenes. So I guess another thing we can add to the list of things you'd like to see changed.
yeah, for
And I
sure,
think,
100%
yeah,
sure.
yeah, and I think that's a sentiment that a lot of people share, including myself, because I would love to have more female Street Fighter players, even in my own scene, come out and play and bond and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah, I
and
don't remember the last time. Like, I don't meet enough. I don't think I meet enough female players
yeah,
to hear. Oh, I would like to play this game. Where is the local? Where is your local? So
yeah,
even that, it's hard. It's harder. Like, I don't know how to go about it. Like how to find
yeah,
it and
yeah,
try to like change it. Uh, yeah, it's kind of frustrating for me because I would like to see that more.
yeah, absolutely. Well, and like the thing too, I feel like is maybe there are players out there but they just don't know about like a local scene, or maybe they only play online, or maybe they only play casually, or maybe they play like other games as well, but they want that experience of having a community. And I feel like sometimes they just don't know. And it's hard because it's just like you also don't want to ever like push like, hey, come to the local, onto
Yeah.
somebody, especially if they're not comfortable with it. But I think female representation as well as just diversity in general, uh, we could always use a little bit more of. Um,
Yes.
so, but on the note of things we'd like to see that are better, I also want to do kind of a switch to things that you love about your scene. Particularly though, what is something that you want people to know about you, about your scene? Kind of a huge takeaway overall.
I'll say that I've seen we have really strong players in like pretty much all the games. So
Mm-hmm.
like all the games, yeah, we have I would say top players like in all the games.
Yeah.
Uh, so if anyone's were to come down here to play us, like we'll definitely give them a challenge. Even like nothing is free over here. Soul Calibur, we have Boom. I don't know if you know Boom. He's the big
Yep.
Soul Calibur player.
Yep.
Yeah, so he's from our team. Street Fighter is like there's I'm here. There's like Wolfgang. Ojion, Dark Chow. Tekken. There's like Seiko, Victim of Ritual. I don't know if you know any of those players. There's Pink Diamond. There's a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of Tekken players, and then like the Guilty Gear players are pretty strong as well. Anime scene is pretty covered. Yeah, I think our scene overall. I think our scene is pretty strong. It just we don't have that. It's not advertised as much,
Mm-hmm.
so we're not looked at like like the two main scenes in the country, like NLBC and Wednesday Night Fights.
Yeah.
But we're pretty strong. I think overall we're pretty strong.
That's
So
awesome. And I mean, like you mentioned earlier, you guys have strong numbers, so obviously you consistency I think is important when going to these locals, and I'm sure with the even just like a minimum of having like 8 people that show up every week, that's pretty consistent, and that means that you're gonna have strong players. I mean, there's a direct correlation. Commander Jesse even mentioned in the last podcast the same thing. He had players that because they went to their locals, they saw good results at tournaments. So I
Yeah.
imagine, it's the same across the board.
Yes. Yes. You definitely need to go to your local. Online is good and all, but like if you can go to your local, like if it's like I always say, if the drive is like less than an hour, like if it's like 45 minutes, yeah, you can, so you can make it. Depending how traffic is, because I don't call like it's 45 minutes a long drive for
Mm-hmm.
me. If your local is 45 minutes away, it's a weekly. If you can make it and you don't have to work anything like that, you should go and support your local.
All right, so there's
Like
no excuses.
there's no excuse. You should, like, like, sure, you got work, school. Like if you don't have to do any of those things, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you should make it. Support is very important because those people that are hosting your local are, they're putting it there for you. So
Yeah.
if you don't support it and then it dies, the next thing you'll say, "Oh, I don't have a place to play. To play. It was there, but you never showed up." you,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
So
Out of curiosity, so I know you mentioned again you played back in the Street Fighter 4 days was when you started going and like competing. Was that when you started attending your local as well?
I started attending my locals ever since I found out about the FGC in I guess, yeah, in 2009 or 2008. Because
Okay.
before I used to go to the arcade at a mall. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. So that was my local before that. Before all the arcades started to close, I used to go
Yeah.
to arcade, and then I started going to my local um in 2009, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I'm guessing you've seen it kind of grow since 2009.
Yes, for sure. For
Um,
sure. It
what do you
changed a
what do you
lot.
think is the best way to help your local scene grow? And what do you think like worked for your local scene? Why it's grown so much since then?
Mm, Definitely, I think being a community, hosting most monthlies, and having like rivalry, like local rivalry also help.
Yeah.
Like hype up the games. Like when a game's coming out, like if a game's popular or if a lot of people are playing, having rivalry really help. Because like if there are rivals, more people want to watch it, and more people want to come and see, like who's gonna win that match.
Yeah, yeah.
So things like that. I think it's hyping up the scene helps. Like yeah, if you have your local scene, and it just you're just having a normal day. Like they come and play and then they go home,
Mhm.
and that can be really boring to some people. Like if you hype up, if you bring out like new ideas, if you like a league, because I used to host a local too, and I used to have leagues for like the players,
Yeah.
for the Street Fighter players. Like if you rank them up, like if like say this week you do well today, and then you rank up. If you do bad, maybe you rank down.
Yeah.
That kind of thing can bring more people to come to your scene, your local scene, because they want to do better each week. I think um, I don't. I'm talking around here, but like having hyping up your scene or bringing new ideas can
Yeah.
help your scene grow. You see that with like Alex Faye, and the Wednesday Night Fight, and
Mhm.
like he did a lot of work for that scene to grow.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like important to constantly be putting effort and time into your scene, and I think with the resurgence of new ideas, I know for example with Phoenix, we did like a teams tournament, and we had a huge turnout. I think we had over 30 people show up for that, which for Phoenix, that's pretty good. That's pretty significant numbers, and so it was really exciting because it's like we have all these new faces here, as well as old faces, or faces that maybe people don't come out as frequently. So we had everybody there for this team's tournament, and that was because it's kind of a newer idea and it was really fun. So I think that's a really good point, that, you know, hyping up the scene, adding new ideas, and rivalries is really fun too. So
Yes.
so we are coming to a close, but I want to know, there any final thoughts or any words of wisdom or anything like that that you'd like to leave the listeners?
Well, my main thing is support your local. If you can make it, if you can make it to your local, go to your local and
All
fight
right.
and have fun.
And there's no excuse if you live 45 minutes away or less,
Yeah.
unless you
You
have
know,
school or work.
yeah. Those two main things. School and work. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Lud, if people want to go and watch your local scene or watch you and your content, where can they find all that?
My local scenes, the one in Xanadu, the one in Xanadu, Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's the stream. They use the Vigil Cam. Vigil Cam. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, that's what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Vigil Cam stream on Twitch.
Okay.
So it's twitch.com/Vigilcam. That's the stream on every Thursday. The stream, which is today, they'll stream later today.
Okay.
And on Tuesday, the one in Virginia is called The Cave Fairfax. Twitch.com/The Cave Fairfax. And my own call, I stream myself with twitch.com/Lethinks. If you want to watch some Chun-Li stuff,
Hell yeah.
follow me.
And then, what is your Twitter handle, in case people want to keep up to date on things that you do?
My is at Lethinks. LUDTHINKS.
All right.
That's pretty much my handle for everything.
All right, good to know. And for you listeners, if you guys want to keep up with this podcast, it is uploaded on Podbean as well as YouTube. You can find it at Flexiss on either of those platforms. If you want to keep up more with my personal content for Flexiss, you can find me at twitch.tv/Flexiss__, or you can find me on Twitter at Flexiss_, as well as Instagram at FlexissFGC. Without further ado, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Lud, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. All right, guys. Adios.